Paul McCartney once said that if slaughterhouses had glass walls, we'd all be vegetarian. Now, this is probably true, but luckily for factory farmers, they don't. But would you also be vegetarian if you knew that the meat you were buying at your local supermarket was possibly making you sick or causing antibiotic resistance so that you may not be able to get better in the future? This is scary stuff, but it's happening right now, and it's continuing to happen on a large scale unless we as consumers change what we demand. The good thing is there are options out there. Options to help us eat in ways that are more healthy, more sustainable, and more ethical. Factory farming is the practice of raising livestock in confinement at high stocking density, where a farm operates more as a factory. These farms are used for the very reason that they produce the highest output at the lowest input. This is done by relying on economies of scale, modern machinery, biotechnology, and the global trade. There is continuing debate over the risks and benefits of factory farming. Today, I will present to you my research on the topic and explain why I think it's the consumer's choice and the consumer's responsibility to demand meat that is more ethically raised. After explaining the history of factory farming and how it has become the enormous business that it is today, I will show that the way these animals are treated is inhumane and absolutely unnecessary. Secondly, I will explain that not only is factory farming unfair to the animals, but it's also harming our bodies. The documentary Frankensteer portrays how the Canadian beef industry has created a monster out of a cow in order to create cheaper food. Thirdly, I will trace the changes of the typical North American diet to show the predominance of meat, and I'll show why this has occurred. And lastly, I'll explain there actually are some good things to come from eating meat, and there are ways that you can eat meat the right way. Agriculture adopted more intensive methods during the 18th century, with this growth in production best characterized by the agricultural revolution, where improvements in farming techniques allowed for significantly improved yields and supported the urbanization of the population during the Industrial Revolution. The first animals to be factory farmed were chickens. The discovery of vitamins and their role in animal nutrition in the first few decades of the 20th century led to vitamin supplements, which in the 1920s allowed chickens to be raised indoors. The discovery of antibiotics and vaccines facilitated raising livestock in larger numbers, reducing disease. In 1990, factory farming accounted for 30% of the world's meat production. By 2005, it had risen to 40%. Today, 43% of the world's beef is raised on factory farms, and more than half of the world's pork and poultry are raised on factory farms as well. Cows, calves, pigs, chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese, and other animals are kept in extremely small cages in jam-packed sheds or on filthy feedlots, often with so little space that they can't even turn around or lie down comfortably. They are deprived of exercise so that all their body's energy goes into producing flesh, eggs, and milk for human consumption. These giant corporations that run most factory farms have found that they can make more money by cramming animals into small cages. Here's a look at the different experiences of both a factory farmed cow and a free-range cow. A free-range dairy cow will stay with her calf, quickly developing a strong bond. A cow will feed its calf for 6 to 8 months, and they will experience the outdoors together. Now, a factory farmed dairy cow is usually separated from her calf at birth, causing great distress. Her milk is reserved for humans. High energy feed will force her to produce 10 times more milk than she could naturally. Stress causes painful udder infections and often lameness, and this is made worse by the manure-covered concrete floors. This outlines exactly why these practices should be illegal. These are living, breathing, and thinking animals who should not be treated horribly, just in the name of cheap meat. Now I'll show a small excerpt from the film Frankensteer about some of the risks of eating this type of meat.
But there is a cost. It is the cost to the animal itself. For we have taken this benign, naturally flatulent vegetarian and turned it first into a cannibal. And when that didn't work, into a vampire. We made its brain and spinal cord into toxic sites. We've managed to turn its feces into something that routinely makes us sick and occasionally kills us. We've taken on the cow and used it as our experiment in developing the perfect food machine. In the process, we've created our very own Frankenstein.
Factory farms are breeding grounds for diseases, which can spread to the community via many routes, not just in the food, but also in water, air, bodies of the factory farmers, and even their families. Once these microbes become widespread in the environment, it's very difficult to get rid of them. Factory farm production is intensifying worldwide, and rates of new infectious diseases are rising. A particular concern is the rapid rise of the antibiotic-resistant microbes, an inevitable consequence of the widespread use of antibiotics fed to animals. Factory farming also eliminates the consumer's ability to know where and how his food is raised. A package of ground beef, for example, may contain parts of dozens of different animals. Modern meat also comes with an array of ingredients that aren't listed on the menu. These include the residue from antibiotics that are fed subtherapeutically in the absence of disease to livestock. Animals raised on factory farms often arrive at slaughterhouses covered with feces and foodborne illnesses such as E. coli. So as the meat we eat becomes less and less healthy for us, we're consuming more and more of it. Americans consume an average of 200 pounds of meat per year, and this has been rising steadily since the 1970s. 50 years ago, a roast beef dinner was reserved for a special occasion, and now roast beef dinners are eaten almost weekly by families. Moreover, 50 years ago, meat was a lot more variable, tougher, and more expensive. This occurs because the journey from the animal to our table was a lot harder and more expensive. Global meat consumption is expected to grow 2% until the year 2015, especially in developing countries where meat consumption is a sign of wealth and prosperity. Factory farms can house up to 125,000 animals under one roof and are designed to produce the highest output, the lowest cost for the operator. In fact, meat production has risen an incredible 500% since 1950. The good news is that there has been some progress in sustainable farming. Sustainable farming, which is a method of farming that is good for animals, people, and the environment, has grown into a $15.6 billion industry. And sow gestation stalls and crates on factory farms, which are so narrow that pregnant pigs can't even turn around, have become illegal in the United Kingdom and Sweden, and will be legal in the entire European Union in 2015. There are also some simple things that you can do to take action and make some changes. Get to know your local farmers who raise sustainable meat in your area. Also, buy sustainable meat at your local health food store or farmer's market. As well, try and eat a vegetarian meal once or twice a week. This will really help out. And also, read up on this kind of information. Read books like Fast Food Nation by Eric Schulzer to give yourself some more information to make the right decisions. So in conclusion, I have explained the devastating effects that are occurring because of factory farming. From inhumane acts upon helpless animals, to adverse health effects that are affecting our bodies, and to the overconsumption of meat. All of these is a direct result of these farms, which have made meat so cheap that it has become an unnecessary staple of our diet. So please take away this knowledge and try to take into consideration the good news that I left for you, because it doesn't have to be this way. Thank you.